Hello everyone and welcome to Weather World Science Time. I'm student meteorologist Jacob Morse, and today I have two fun weather-related science experiments that are great for parents and kids to do at home. These experiments will teach us about clouds and about sunsets. Both of these experiments can be done with items that you probably have lying around your house. Let's get started. In our first experiment, we are going to create a cloud inside of a jar. Since it's a nice day today, I'm going to be doing this outside, but you can do this inside if you would like to. We need four things in order to do this experiment. We need a jar. This is a plastic pasta sauce jar that I've cleaned out, but you could also use a glass jar that's about this same size. It just needs to have a lid on it that you can take on and off. We also need to have some warm water. It doesn't have to be boiling water. I just heated this up in the microwave for about a minute. We also need some ice cubes, and then our secret ingredient for this experiment is going to be some hairspray or body spray. And we'll get into why we need this in just a little bit. The first thing that we need to do in order to form our cloud is take the lid off of our jar and pour our warm water into the jar. We're going to let this sit for about a minute, but before we do that, we're going to put the lid back on the jar and shake this up a little bit, move it around so that the water touches all the sides. We want to get the sides of the jar pretty warm, and we want to get the air inside of the jar pretty warm as well. So we'll let this sit for about a minute. So it's been about a minute now, and the sides of our jar are getting pretty warm. You can feel that. So that's step one of forming our cloud. What we need to do next is to create a temperature difference. So the air inside of our jar is pretty warm. But what we need to do is to put some cold air right on top of the jar. The reason why we want to do this is because clouds form from warm air near the ground. It rises. As this air rises, it expands really high up in the atmosphere near where there's some colder air up there. And as this air expands, the water vapor, which is an invisible gas within all the air around us, this water vapor condenses into a liquid. This liquid is water droplets that make up all the clouds that we see. So through this process of condensation, our clouds form, but we need a temperature difference in order to do that. So with the warm air that's inside of our jar, we're going to put the cold air on top of it. What we're going to do is take the lid off of our jar, flip it over, put it back on top of our jar, and then take a few of our ice cubes, put those ice cubes inside of the lid on top of our jar. So this is going to put that cold air right on top of our jar, right on top of where the warm air is inside of our jar. So we're going to let this sit for a couple of minutes, and we should start to see a cloud form inside of our jar. Alright, so it's been a couple of minutes now, but still no signs of a cloud inside of our jar. Why is that? Well, if you remember at the beginning of this experiment, I mentioned that we needed a secret ingredient, which was our body spray or our hairspray. What we're going to do with this is we're going to take the lid quickly off of our jar, spray this inside of the jar, and then put the lid right back on. The reason why we need to do this is because our water vapor cannot condense on nothing. It needs to condense on really tiny little particles that are a part of our body spray or our hairspray. In our atmosphere, these tiny little particles are called cloud condensation nuclei. And these can be really tiny little dust particles or smoke particles that the water vapor can condense on in order to form the water droplets that make up our cloud. So here we go. We're going to take the lid quickly off, spray this inside of our jar, and put the lid right back on. And there we go. We have a cloud inside of our jar. You can't really see my hand on the other side there. And if we take the lid off of the jar, the cloud you can see coming out of the jar there. Well, there we go. We formed a cloud inside of our jar. We'll have our second experiment coming up in just a second. In our second experiment, we're going to answer the questions, why is the sky blue, and what causes those beautiful red and orange colors that we see during a sunset. All that we need to do this experiment is 3 glasses, 2 of them filled with just water, and 1 of them filled with just milk. I use skim milk here, but if you wanted to use 2% or whole milk, I would suggest diluting it just a little bit. We also need a spoon and a flashlight. What we're going to do first is pour just a splash of the milk from the glass that's filled with just milk into one of the glasses with just water in it. If you wanted to measure this out, all you need is about a teaspoon, but what we're going to do next is take our spoon and stir up this milky solution. What we're going to do next is take these 3 glasses inside into a dark room and shine our flashlight into each one of them, and something pretty cool is going to happen. So now we have our 3 glasses inside with the lights off. First, we'll shine our flashlight on the glass with just water. The water remains clear as we would expect. But when we shine the flashlight on the glass with water and just a little bit of milk, the liquid turns a blue color. This explains why the sky is blue. The flashlight is acting like the sun, which is made up of a full spectrum of colors from violet to red, and the milky mixture is acting like the atmosphere. The milk particles in the water scatter the light from the flashlight, just like how molecules in the atmosphere, such as oxygen and nitrogen, scatter the wavelengths of light from the sun that we see as blue. Now let's shine our flashlight on the glass with just milk in it. The milk turns orange. This is what happens at sunset because the incoming sunlight has to pass through more of Earth's atmosphere due to its lower angle in the sky, represented by the higher concentration of milk. So now the beam of sunlight gets scattered by more molecules in the atmosphere before reaching our eyes, and more of the blue light is scattered out, leaving only the red and orange wavelengths that we see. Pretty cool. Well, that's all the time we have for our experiments today. I hope you guys had some fun and learned a few new things about the weather. For Weather World, I'm Jacob Morse.